Meeting for the Town of Harwich Board of Health for Tuesday, July 18th, 2023, 6:30 PM, Town Hall, Don B. Griffith Room. Anyone, let me get down here. It's required by law that the town may audio or video record this meeting. Any person intending to either audio or video record this open session is required to inform the chair. You're good. Okay. Any public comment? Is there? So is that anybody online, or is that?
Yes, that's Susan Ledoux. Yep.
Oh,
For
what's the SL? Who's SL?
Susan Ledoux.
Oh,
Yep.
okay, so
That's her.
no comment.
Not,
All right, the minutes. I did go over the minutes, and I was a little over on page 2B, where it says the chairperson commented on identifying bottles of compounds. We need to clarify what that was referring to, and I think it was referring to the forever chemicals that we were talking about.
Yep.
So just to make sure that the minutes reflect what actually we were talking about, we're going to get that cleared up.
yeah, we'll do a re-review of the meeting and make sure that we clarify.
Yeah. And then I had another one down here where they were talking about the tobacco regulations, where it says the blunt wrap, a business agent. I wasn't quite sure what that's referring to, so they're going to go back and look at that as well. So we'll bring these back the next time. Does anybody else have anything they noticed?
Nope.
No.
So we'll bring those back the next time. All right. Let me do it this way. All right. A, do you want to read A, to open up the hearing for?
Old business, okay now. Seeking relief from the Town of Harwich Board of Health Bedroom Definition Regulation, 141 Bank Street, to consider a request to add a bonus room above a garage without considering it a bedroom under the Board of Health Bedroom Definition Regulation.
All right, what I've been told is that we were waiting for the state to determine whether or not this met the definition of a single dwelling. The state came back and said, no, it does not. So the applicants have withdrawn their request, so we just need a motion to remove it from the agenda.
I'll make a motion to remove the Board of Health bedroom definition from the agenda.
Second that motion?
And vote?
Aye.
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 All right. Okay, item 5A.
5A, preliminary subdivision application 1594 and 1598 Orleans Road. Pre-approval for a planning board, Eastwood MBT LLC, plan preparation by Strong Tree Engineering, dated 6/19/2023.
All right.
Good evening, Susan.
Good evening.
Susan Ledoux from Eastward Companies. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Yes.
Okay, great, thank you. I've submitted a package to the Board of Health as well as the Planning Board, and we're proposing an 8-lot residential lot subdivision. And if you have your packet in front of you that we submitted, I submitted the application form for the preliminary subdivision plan, as well as a letter, a narrative of what we're proposing, and the set of plans. So if you'd like to take a look at those. The existing conditions, there are two undeveloped parcels, they're wooded parcels on Orleans Road or Route 39. 1594 Orleans Road is just about a 5-acre parcel with about 240 feet of frontage on Route 39 in East Harwich, and is located on the west side of the road and north of Huckleberry Path. 1598 Orleans Road is 3.83 acres with 172 feet of frontage on Route 39, and it abuts the first lot to the north. The subject property has varying topography, is heavily wooded, and no wetlands appear to exist on this property. It's located in the RR zone and the Zone 2, or the DWRPD, the Water Resource Zone. The upland total area of both lots is 8.82 acres. So our proposal, our preliminary proposal before you is a subdivision, a residential subdivision, where we're creating 8 residential lots and a subdivision road to serve the lots. And each building lot has the minimum area for the zone of 40,000 square feet of area and 150 feet of frontage. And we met, our engineers, and I met with Carrie and Dan Pelletier on the 30th of June to discuss the proposal. And I did receive plans from Dan. I think it was today, Carrie, correct me if I'm wrong, I think it was today that Dan sent the draft sewer plan line, or the main that will be in this area of Orleans Road, with the pump station at the island where Church Street comes into Route 39. And we are anticipating that we will be installing a sewer main down the middle of the proposed subdivision road, and we'll be connecting to the sewer when we develop the road. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them. I'm not sure, I thought our engineer might be here, but I can't tell if he is or not.
He's
Thank you.
not.
Do you have any questions?
No, just Susan, when would building anticipate starting in this area? You're saying like it's gonna be sewered immediately, basically?
Yes, when sewer becomes available. I would say we have our preliminary plan with the planning board next Tuesday. If that's approved, we would finish up work on the definitive subdivision plans, and then we would submit those back to the Board of Health and Planning Board. Probably not see either board until maybe October at the earliest. If we have a meeting or two and have approval, go through the appeal period with the Planning Board decision, we would probably not get started till winter or spring. I mean, we would hope to start a home as soon as we start road construction on one of the first lots in there. But we don't anticipate flushing a toilet or being able to flush a toilet probably till by the late spring, summer, maybe even by August of next year. And so we're hoping with the schedule of the sewer, they might coincide, hopefully.
You're in phase 2. Am I correct? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that's, I don't know if Carrie can correct me. I'm a little foggy. I know I see the information, but I don't see it as much as you all.
Yeah, so
But I think we're hoping.
this
yeah.
was one that kind of, the property teetered on phase 2
2
and
and
phase
3.
3,
All
I
right.
believe, through conversations with Dan. And I think he did have a plan where he could get them into phase 2 and be able to connect sewer sooner rather than later, and waiting
Right.
for phase 3.
Right.
This is one that it's just the preliminary, so you'll have more details and more information when they come back with the definitive. So if you approve this, you would just be approving it so they could get through planning board, and you would put your conditions on the project for the definitive.
For the definitive.
Okay.
All right.
All right.
I'll have a motion.
I motion to accept the application for, the preliminary application for the subdivision on 1594 and 1598 Orleans Road.
Okay. Vote?
Aye?
Aye?
Aye.
All right. Okay,
Thank you very much.
thank you. Good luck.
Hi, thanks. Have a good night.
Thanks, you
night.
too.
Oh, I keep moving that. All right. All right. Where are we?
B.
There. All right, so we are at, oh, all right.
B.
All right, B, the Board of Health to authorize the chair to sign the Public Health Excellence Grant, IMA, and send to the Board of Selectmen for final signature. I asked Carrie, if she'll, go into a little bit more of what it's about.
What's
So-
the BOS?
Board of Selectmen.
BOS is Board of Selectmen.
So the shared services is through a grant program that Barnstable County has applied for through the state. This would allow the Board of Health and our health department to take advantage of shared services with the county. So far, they've gotten approval for software, so our food inspection software, they've added the pools, camps, housing, and they're looking to add tobacco down the road. So we've already been able to start to take advantage of that. This would also, the program, they're looking for a shared inspector, so in the event that our department has a shortfall or unexpected circumstance, we'd be able to have that inspector come in and fill any gaps for our department if there's no conflict with any other towns already being approved. But I think that's still all in the works. They are looking to vote on that potential item. There is, I think it's over $200,000 in grant money for this program that will allow extra aid to our department, as long as it's something that is not already within our budget and is needed by the group.
Like it's shared with all the towns.
I think it's a good service to take advantage of. There's no major requirements for
No,
us
it
to
doesn't look like
fulfill.
there's any downside.
It doesn't look like there's any downside.
And I think it makes sense to share a person to do some of these things, because I think, like I said, I don't think the towns have enough work for like an inspector for each town, as opposed to, let's share it.
This all came to light through COVID and realizing that a lot of the health departments across the state were understaffed and undertrained. So this is their way of providing the grant services to regionalize and share information and share services and make sure there's no gaps if in the event that there's another public health crisis.
The grant came from the state?
The grant came from the state. It's being managed by Barnstable County. So we're gonna regionalize this program, this part of the program. So what you'd be signing or what you'd be having Sharon sign is the agreement for the shared services. So it would be our participation in this grant program and regionalizing us with Barnstable County.
Sounds good.
Looked good.
It's got to get Board of Selectmen approval as well, so it is, once the board, if the board approves it, Sharon signs, they'll be hearing it, I believe, on Monday.
I move to authorize Sharon as the chairman of the, or chairperson of the Board of Health to sign the Public Health Excellent Grant IMA.
Second. Vote?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye? I guess I vote on that.
Okay.
All right. Board of Health Director's Report.
Well, this will,
I just want to interrupt, I just want to congratulate Carrie on getting the position as our new director.
thank you,
Great.
thank you. That was the first update. This is officially my first health director's update, where I'm the health director giving the update, so. I'm excited to working with the board and serving the town of Harwich in our community, and hopefully for a long time.
Okay.
The next update is our NSA designation amendments to Title V. Amendments to Title V have recently been finalized at the state. The amendments include a provision that expands nitrogen-sensitive areas for the Cape and South Shore. Maps were distributed, which I have included in the packets. So this is the new nitrogen designation. A majority of Harwich falls under the newly designated nitrogen-sensitive areas. The purple outlines areas that have the potential for future designation. So there's a good chance that 100% of Harwich meets that designation in the future, but the majority of it at this time. The Water Department is going to be proposing a notice of intent for our watersheds as part of the new requirements. These NOIs will start the process and applying for our watershed permits for our town. We are hopeful that an approval of the watershed permit in each one of our 5 watersheds will eliminate the requirement for residents in the newly mapped NSAs to have to include IA technology to their existing and proposed septic system. The state is working on guidance documents for the local authorities. Once we receive these guidance documents, we'll be putting out some information on our website to inform our citizens of the new changes and have a better handle on what's expected of us. But we will know more once those NOIs get sent up.
Do you know if Dan's going to apply for all the watersheds at one time, or only as it's coming through on the phases?
I believe he's gonna send out a watershed permit for each
One.
watershed.
All
At
right.
least get the notice of intent. What the notice of intent will do is allow the town 2 years to apply for the watershed permits. So that'll give us a little bit of window to actually
To
work
do it.
on and finalize
All right,
those permits.
okay.
So that's the update there.
Carrie, do you post these when you, the health director's monthly report, do you wind up posting them online?
I don't.
Okay.
No.
We won't worry about typos then.
Yeah, I got fat fingers
I have
when
a
I
question
type.
too.
Are you kidding me?
How much of Harwich is sewered now? Is that,
We have a very small portion that is currently sewered.
what's that, where is that?
We're in phase 2.
We're in phase 2.
Yep, that's up by Stop and Shop in
Right,
East
right,
Harwich.
Right. So
Um,
how many houses are,
Don't know off the top of my head.
okay, and how fast are they going with this whole situation? That's,
Yeah, I think
people keep on asking.
originally, we were given 40 years, all
Well,
right,
that's
from
a
the
long
time.
time.
And the state came back and said that was just a little much, and they were saying you had to do it. And what we're saying, if I'm correct, I think they were saying they wanted this to be finished in 20 years. They're saying you can't wait 40 years to clean up the embayments if there's really a problem in the embayments, all right? If you can let it go 4 years, is it really a problem?
well, that's too. Now, I've heard that 60% of Chatham is sewered. Is that correct?
That I can't answer either. I don't have their
But again,
statistics.
in other words, I guess I'm trying to wrap my arms around how fast are we going? Okay,
Compared to other sewered areas.
exactly.
Yeah.
Well,
So-
we were behind that to start with. I think Chatham was probably one of the first ones to get started.
That's where the plant is, isn't it?
Yeah, well, that's where the one plant is, yes. So, yeah, they were the ones that got started, and their plan was, when I say to sewer the whole town, I don't know if they meant all the little, farms, but like the town itself, that was their plan. And I think they decided to go through that. And we took a tour through the disposal plant.
Yes,
What he had said was, when they designed that, they designed it knowing that we were going to, in all likelihood, buy into that, and
Yes.
also enough space, or whatever you want to call it, to enlarge it.
okay.
So we bought into that, and we started paying on that when the first flow started into to the plant. And then it depends on how much goes in, what we pay. Now, that's not going to cover what's going to happen out in the western part. So there's a possibility that they're looking at, and I probably shouldn't speak too much to this, but I know there's been talk about another plant in Dennis that we might buy into, like we did with Chatham. So part of that was the reason why some of these phases got changed from what was originally picked as the phases. They got rearranged as to when it was going to be done. And I think what they're also finding is that maybe we could do a little less, depending on what, like Muddy Creek, depending on what that turned out to be. but they also have to take into consideration the expansion that's happening. And it seems like we do have a lot of expansion going on, so I don't know how Dan works all of that in, but I think, I know there's, because I talk with Dan off and on this, and it's, there's a lot going on that I think once they just, once they decide on which avenue they want to pursue, I think then they're going to have more meetings with the town to let them know, where this is going. And I thought they were doing an update monthly to the Board of Selectmen. I don't know over the summer, since they only meet twice, whether that's what's happening.
Because it seems like it's going fairly slow.
So phase 2 is the first phase to actually have households connect.
Right.
That has been underway. I think our final deadline for the last contract is June 24 for people to actually connect. So they've had about a year or so that they've been ordered to connect. They get 2 years to connect per that order, a year or two, I think it's 2.
Okay.
Infrastructure itself, once approved, so we just approved phase 3 at the previous town meeting.
Right.
So they can start the contract bidding and getting on board with laying the infrastructure for people to connect. That's about 3 to 5 years, depending on construction, give or take. Projects run into hiccups or move faster than anticipated.
Okay.
And then again, it's 2 years. And the follow-up, so people who don't connect or are seeking waivers or looking for, have IA systems, that might, you allowed 10 years. So we have some that are hanging in the,
Okay.
hanging out there that probably should be connecting that haven't connected yet, and we'll do follow-up letters and enforcement. I think through the water department is sending out notices, but I can follow up with them
Okay.
as to
Well,
what they're,
Just so we understand how quickly this is happening, because there's lots of questions out there. People,
yeah, we can definitely do, I can add to the director's update at the next meeting to see where we're at, how many
Yeah.
people have received orders and
Right.
how many people have
Exactly,
connected.
so we,
Maybe just some idea of what their time frame is
Yes.
on phase 3. I mean, we can't hold them to it, but like what he's thinking the time frame is.
Yeah, I can meet with Dan and get you an update for
that'd
the
be
next meeting.
So you have some idea how to think about.
Comparative to Chatham too, I'll touch base
Exactly.
with Judy and see if she has any information for me.
Particularly, I think when people come before the board
yes.
and they want us to make variances that
Right.
and if they're going to be in phase 3 or, that we have some idea how,
Time frame.
for how we can think
Yes.
to process that.
Okay. Good.
Okay.
Okay,
We did vote on that, didn't we? Yes, okay. All right, correspondence, but there's any
I
correspondence?
did not have any correspondence this month.
Okay, and then the permits? Oh, no,
And then we're gonna close the hearing
And
and
then-
open the work session.
that's right, all right, because I'm missing something, but yes, okay, so the permits. So anything on the permits that we need to really hone in on?
No, everybody was pretty straightforward. We, again, have a few new permit holders on our list, a few event permits specifically, but some of these are repeat permit holders. They're new because they're single events, so we only issue it year by year. There's not a renewal for those. We have a new soccer camp, a new massage practitioner, and the massage establishment that she operates out of.
Okay. Do we have any motion?
Motion to accept the permits as listed in section 8.
Vote?
Aye.
Aye? All right. Okay, so do I have a motion to close the meeting?
Make a
So you'll
motion.
close the public hearing, but we'll keep the meeting going
Oh, we're
because you still
clo-
have the
closing the
work
public
session. So
hearing.
you're
All
not
right.
adjourning yet, but you
Okay.
are closing public
Motion
hearing.
to close the public hearing.
Vote?
Aye.
Aye?
Aye.
Now, do I have to open the work session then?
No, I think we can just move into the work session.
All right.
I think that,
Okay, so, I did ask Carrie to go into, we did go over this. It's the work session is going to be on the board to consider waivers to upgrade the septic system. And I think primarily, particularly the ones coming up in phase 3.
yeah.
How we, as a board, want to handle these, but I'll let her explain it a little better.
So what we have been seeing a lot of right now is sewer connection waiver requests. So we see internally the ones that are in phase 2 that are transferring. And either they don't want to have the Title V inspection done to transfer, or it's a failed system and they want to transfer knowing that the buyer is going to be responsible for connecting to the sewer. So we review those in-house. We're seeing for phase 3 building permits, so people who are requesting an expansion of the property beyond what the septic capacity is, or a non-conforming system for what they're proposing, and they're looking to get approval for their building permits prior to sewer connection. So rather than wait 3 years to start the building project, where they would have to upgrade the septic in order to get that permit, they're asking for waivers to continue the use of the non-conforming system in order to move forward, acknowledging the connection to sewer. So that's, I think, what the board is gonna be considering and seeing more of is, I think you need to start the discussion amongst yourselves to figure out what criteria you want to see in order to approve these, and how far out in phases do you want to go. We had one that we approved that was in phase 3. There was one that came in front of the board that just withdrew tonight. The other piece of their argument was that they're going to be connecting to sewer in phase 5. So,
That would be, yeah, that's,
so we don't know what's going to happen
Yeah.
beyond. So if the board wants to think about the policy that they want to kind of set the standards moving forward, no, I don't even want to see anything in phase 6, 5, 6, 4, 3, anything that's not approved currently to take place. Don't bring it in front of us, or yes, we want to hear it and we'll consider it on a case-by-case basis. I think this is the criteria that you need to think about, as well as how old does the system need to be before you want it inspected? We generally go 10 years when we're looking at a building permit. So I wouldn't think that you would need to have a Title V inspection if the system's less than 10 years old. But again, it's board's criteria of what you feel. Do you
Okay.
want engineered plans? Do you not want engineered plans? Are you comfortable letting staff decide whether engineer plans might be required? There's a lot to consider when, I think, thinking about the various pieces to these waivers.
All right, can I start out by asking some questions? Just when it comes to the different scenarios, what do you feel that you would want to handle without us having to look into? What do you feel that you're comfortable with?
So any time that I would say the septic system needs to be upgraded in order for me to approve this building permit, and if they come back and say we're in phase 3 of the sewer or phase 4 of the sewer, I think that is where I want the board's guidance, because I'm not going to approve the use of any non-conforming system. I think that's up to you guys to decide whether you want to allow them. And then what phases do you want to cut it off at? Do you want to say, if it's not approved at town meeting and it's not in the works, we're not going to see it, we're not going to consider it?
I guess then my question on that would be, all right, what happens if somebody says, all right, right now we think we're going to be in phase 5 or 4, and they've got a septic system.
And it would need upgrade.
And it
So
would
they
need-
can either
e-
wait So they're
They need an
closer to
upgrade
sewer.
to, for a project. All right,
Expand, you mean?
to expand, yeah.
Okay.
Then I think then that we would, I can see bringing that before the board, but then I've got questions like, I would have to go back to Dan and say, all right, as it stands right now, at whatever time that would be, does it look like this is still going to be in phase 5? And knowing that he doesn't necessarily know for sure that it's going to be approved, but at the point, does it look like this is where we're headed? And if so, what's the time frame? So now if they're going to say, all right, phase 5 could be
15 years.
15 years, all right? And they want to know whether they need to upgrade, you know, to
Yeah, I
build.
wouldn't have-
Then I would think, yes, you know, 15 years is a long time.
Yes.
Then I would say, yeah, you're going to, but I would think, you know,
And if you wanted to create the policy where you already know it's an automatic denial, and we can tell them, you can go in front of the board and pay the fee and ask, but they're only approving things inside approved
and
phases.
see, that to me makes
Yeah,
sense.
yeah.
I mean, we can't make a judgment either going out that far. I mean, I couldn't, even with Dan's, with what
No,
he could
that's-
give
I
us.
don't think that's, I think, just
Yeah.
too far away, and we
Yeah.
can't even consider
Yeah.
any.
Yeah, and I think that's what we're looking for, is just some guidance for people, because I don't want to waste their money,
Right.
their resources,
Yeah.
or their time to come in front of the board and have them say,
How much does it cost to come in front of the board?
well, the filing fee is $125 for the sewer waivers for expansion purposes. So they would come in front of you, $125.
Oh, but they don't have a cost to come in
Right.
front of me.
And then
Us,
whatever
just
they need to present to you, if they need engineered plans, if they need a Title V inspection, those are additional
The things
costs too.
could
So-
increase. So if we said, all right now we've got approval for phase 3. So I would say anybody in phase 3, but what does the board think, let's say for phase 4, not beyond 4? Do we want to even consider 4?
I wouldn't consider 4 right now because it seems like we're going very slow. So
Yeah.
When is
four-
phase 4
4 would be
supposed to
what,
start?
10
I'm-
years, 12 years?
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
it-
not for a while. I mean,
I don't think you can go that far because the state wants this done in 20 years.
Well,
Yeah.
Well, I think anything over 5 years should be.
Yeah.
I really think we should be concentrating on 2 and 3. I think 4 seems like it's way out there.
All right,
now.
I just was kind of
Slow.
asking, you know, what your feeling is if somebody says, well, you know, I'm in phase 4
Yeah,
and,
that-
but I'm
when are they
thinking,
gonna
we don't
connect?
know.
12, 14 years down the line, I mean.
We
this
don't
is-
know, we don't know.
Well, this is for, right now, we could review it every 6 months or every year, or once things get going.
Yeah,
And you can say, you know, that we don't want to see anything that's not in a town-approved phase.
No,
So it
that's
hasn't gone, if it hasn't gone
is-
through the
is-
approval of
is
town meeting and
3
gone,
approved right now?
yes,
yep.
that was
Okay.
approved.
So why even bring up 4 right now?
Yeah,
Well, that's,
I just wanted to
That's the
see what your
discussion.
feelings were. My feeling is to keep it within phase 2
2
and
and
3.
3,
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
2 and 3, let's see how that goes. I mean,
Yeah.
it seems like it's going slow.
so the other piece you want to consider with phase 2 is everybody in phase 2 is very well capable of connecting right now.
Yeah,
So if they have their order letter to connect, are you gonna consider giving them relief from that order? Because when we see a building permit, I look at the contracts, you've been ordered to connect, you're capable of connecting. I'm not approving your building permit until you connect if it's an upgrade condition.
all right, now, one of the things that came up before, when I was on wastewater, was what are you gonna do if somebody, let's say before it was finished in phase 3 or 2, and their system failed, and they had to upgrade or, you know, fix it. How much time were we going to give them, considering it's like a new system? All right, do we want to, you know, give them extra time, like, for some reason, and I could be wrong, I'm thinking we thought like maybe 5 years.
So the board wrote as stipulation in the regulation specifically to IA technology. So IA Technology, you have 10 years from the certificate of compliance issuance date. So if it was issued 2 years ago, you have another 8 years on the system.
Okay, and that's just for IA.
Just for IA, everybody else is 2 years. That's another piece of this discussion, was those people that are in phase 2 that can connect and are facing hardships. Do you want us at the staff level to approve them, or do you want to see those on a case-by-case basis and make the determination yourselves for hardship extensions?
Depending how many people are applying for hardship. I mean,
And that would be another how many, what's a hardship criteria, how old does, a
how old the
system,
system is.
how old is the system, is it functioning?
So I guess those are the ones we would have to, that we would need to see, and again, I think when those kind of things come up, I would feel to get Dan to weigh in on that.
Yes.
I'd like to see him weigh in on
Yeah,
that.
and I did ask him if he felt anybody in phase 3 that was requesting, if the board approved an extension for a hardship basis, would that impact the watershed permit and what requirements were at all? And he said that he didn't feel that that would have a significant impact. But again, I think it also depends on the time frame that we're allowing them.
Yes.
The amount of,
And
what
see, I would-
criteria,
see,
that
I-
hardship is another hard thing to categorize.
Yes.
Because what's a hardship for somebody in one sector of life might not necessarily for another person, so,
Well, again, what's the criteria for hardship? Because you
Well,
put that
that's-
in- that's one criteria, okay?
Yeah.
The other criteria would be how old is the system?
Yes,
Another okay? Okay, then what the cost is connecting to the system. Okay? So there's 3 piles as far as I can see
Yes.
right now.
and we do have somebody who is looking to be put on the agenda for a hardship. I asked her to wait until after this discussion so we could have a little guidance to give her on whether it would be worth her time. Do we want to charge a filing fee for those asking for extensions for hardships? Do we want to give an age of the system cutoff that you'll consider? Do you want to,
all right.
aside from people filing financial I don't
You know, when you say
know
how
what
much
we can.
time you're going to give them, a lot of it's going to depend on how bad it is. You know, it's like, well, it failed, but it's like, So again, we're going to need, I would need some guidance, let's say, in this case from you. Okay, this is how bad the system is.
And where it's located, I guess?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, like, I guess I would say we could see those, but there's going to be a lot of information, I think, that we're going to need on an individual basis. And when it comes to, let's say, a time frame, how long are we going to give them? To me, I can't come up with that because I don't understand the septic systems well enough to say, you know what, we could give them 3 years, but beyond that, the system isn't going to hold up, or something like that. So,
And maybe criteria for having it, not drained, but
yeah,
every, maybe, if it's not working, it should be more than once a year, I would
I
say.
would say so.
yeah.
You know?
And I
Yeah.
think the failed systems are different, a whole different ballpark, because if the system's in failure,
Then that's,
then
That's
it's
Crystal
different.
clear.
Yeah.
But if it's, so the lady that is asking to come in front of the board, I think the system's only like 3 or 4 years old.
That's pretty young.
And so it's a new system, and she is looking for an extension. I don't know what she's requesting. I don't know what the board would be comfortable approving. Those are you specifically gave 10 years for the IA systems, but
Yeah.
those have nitrogen reducing qualities,
where
so
this doesn't.
this is a traditional system.
I'd like to, for me personally, I'd like to have some input from Dan to what he thinks. And maybe a lot of it's going to depend, let's say, in an area. How many people in a certain area are going to be requesting? If it's one person out of 50, how much is that going to affect the nitrogen? If we have a community where we can have 10, 15 people, that may be something different. So I guess there's so many variables.
There are a lot of variables to that
I
one.
guess my thing is, I don't know that we could actually list all the different variables, because we're not gonna know everything that comes up.
And you may have to just review those ones on a case-by-case
Yeah.
basis and get the feel for it. If it's a new system, if it's an old system, if they plead their case, the hardship, and pull it,
Then we would have to go to the people, and if we feel that we need to talk to Dan, get some feeling from him, like,
Yep.
or from you, like, how many other people in this area?
Because if
or-
it's 90% of the people with the orders to connect that are requesting the extensions, then you're just prolonging that
Then-
process even further. So
yeah.
there are a lot of moving pieces to that hardship piece beyond, that go way beyond
Yeah.
just a building permit.
Yes.
And yes, we promise to connect, and we're gonna connect 45 days once the connection's available,
Has
so.
any decision been made, and I know this came up, what if a person says, I can't afford to do it?
Well, that's what we're talking about, you know.
And there are the Aqua Fund loans.
There's some low-cost loans available.
Well,
Some people,
they can't do that. It's not available to them.
And maybe we bring in somebody from the county to help us understand that process a little more and see what's available.
We had done that before with wastewater, but I think it's a good idea to bring them back again, so that we have some idea of, if somebody comes in front of us with a hardship that says, I'm sorry, I simply can't afford it. What do we say to those? Where do
I
we,
can name 3 people from my church who are in their 90s
Yeah.
or with fixed income, that
Yeah.
they don't have any
Yes, what-
extra money per month
right.
for a loan.
And see, where I came from, what they did was, in cases like that, I don't think they do it here, then the town or city paid for that. When that person passes on, then it comes out of, when they sell the property or whatever, then the town gets paid back.
That would make a lot of sense.
But I don't know that there's anything, there hadn't been anything like that. I don't know if this has changed, but I think maybe getting the people, or from the,
County?
county or in, and say, what is available for someone that really doesn't have the money? They're in their 80s or 90s and they don't have the money. What are we supposed to say to them? Because I think that puts an awful onus on us to say, you must
Yeah,
connect.
that's too bad you have to do it.
When they simply don't have any means of doing it. I don't notice that should fall to us. I don't know. I don't know. But I know that came up repeatedly under wastewater. What are you gonna do for those people? What are you gonna do? And we never, to my knowledge, was anything ever really decided
I
on.
can remember way back, at the beginning, there was talk of having a fund set aside for people like this, but I don't think that ever happened.
Isn't there a fund set aside for people who can't pay their taxes?
They could work them off,
Work 'em-
or that's a
isn't there
betterment, but,
something like
I mean,
that?
at 90 years old, what is-
Volunteer program.
Yeah,
Yeah, there was a volunteer program where they
Yeah.
could come in and work off their taxes. I don't know the criteria of that.
We probably have to check with the selectmen on that type of situation, I would think, but there has to be some way of,
see, I don't,
figuring out something like that.
to my knowledge, nothing has been decided.
Right.
Well, I think maybe we should,
But if it's gonna start to come up,
it's
and
gonna,
and it's
And it
going
is.
to,
it's gonna
It is.
come up.
yeah.
A lot of these people are starting, that are in the
Well,
first
see,
contract.
phase one was Muddy Creek.
Yep.
That didn't affect anybody.
No.
Phase two, we've got people that could have hardships, and if they're gonna come to us and say, must we connect? I don't know that it should fall totally on us,
These are good
to,
We need more criteria.
or, what options they have.
Even if there was a means that they could apply for a hardship status
Yes.
through the county, and the county could say, okay, you meet the criteria of a hardship.
Yes.
Here's your letter, take it to the Board of Health,
Yes.
and
Yeah.
Figure out something like
Something.
that.
And to my knowledge, that hasn't been done yet, but I'm thinking something like that, for it to fall back on our committee,
Right.
I
Because for
think
the
is a,
board to review financial documents, I don't feel like that
No.
is in our wheelhouse or,
And if this person's going to come in before us in the next month, I'd kind of like some guidance from the board. What are we supposed to do?
yeah. And we can hold off on having her apply. There would be no
This one's not a hardship,
enforcement.
though. This one you're talking about is just because it's a newer system, so she's hoping to not have to connect,
She
correct?
is claiming a financial hardship in the point that she just paid to have this system installed, and she is, I believe, on a limited income. I don't have all of the specific details of her situation, because I was kind of at a loss for her in which way to guide her pending
See,
this
that's,
discussion.
and like, as far as the financial, how do we determine that she's really in financial need? That should be, not even our Board of Selectmen, to me, that should be somebody in the county, somebody that you
An
can send them
outside
to.
source that can make the determination.
Yes,
And I don't think that source exists.
no. No, I might say something to the, oh, unless you want to say something, I'll get up on Monday and say, this has come before us, and we need some guidance from the, if the board agrees to it, I'll get up on Monday and say something to the Board of Selectmen that, these questions are going to come before us. We need some better guidance on what we can tell the people, where they can go for guidance. We can't,
A lot of our citizens, well, I won't say a lot yet, but a lot of our citizens are going to start to express hardships.
yeah. And how do we define
How
that?
do we define that?
We're not going to look at their financial
We're an
records.
aging community, so to speak, year-round.
Yeah, I
I
mean,
don't want to, I don't.
No, I don't, oh my God, I got enough of my own. So, if it's all, if the board doesn't object, I'll just get up and ask Monday
just looking for some guidance
guidance.
for the select board,
Yeah.
or if they can put it on their radar that this is something that is.
That
is
we've already,
circulating
we're having
that-
somebody that needs to come before us, and we do not have the ability, nor do we want it, to look at somebody's financials and say, yes, this person really does have a hardship, and even if we did, now what? We don't know what the county's going to do. So, yeah, it's kind of, I think, a little hard for us to, some of the things we might be able to work through, but I think we're going to run into some where we're going to hit a brick wall, where it's beyond our pay grade,
Yeah.
so to speak.
And I'll reach out to the county and the folks who run the Aqua Fund and see if they have any more guidance for me as to, is there something that's already existing that would help solve all this?
And what does somebody do when they, like you're saying, they have no extra money to even pay back a loan? What do we do to those people? You're gonna say, well, you gotta move because you can't, and when they're coming to us about connecting, then that
We have to have
decision
an
is,
answer.
that decision's gonna fall on us. And I feel that's above our pay grade to make that
Yeah.
final
These
determination.
are just specifically hardship cases. We still have the whole issue with people who aren't asking for hardship, but they're asking for an extension
That,
on the connection.
and I think that, we can look at that and say, okay, when did the system, was it a new system? When did you have it put in? And maybe take a look at that, similar to what they were doing with the IA, and say,
We said 10 years for
IA.
IA.
But-
If we say,
But that removes nitrogen.
right,
This isn't going to be, so I can't see giving them like 10 years on a new
I
system.
can't either, but say like this person's case where they had a new system 2-3 years ago, let's say if the system is new, yes, not IA and nitrogen loading, but, I would think giving people an extension on it, if it is at least a new system, up to maybe 5 years
5 years from the time it was,
installed. The
Installed.
system was installed, so if
Right.
they installed the system 2 years ago, then they'd have another, 3
Now-
years from
Now,
the.
again, what I was getting at, depending on the area, let's say you've got
Right.
an area where you may have 5, 10, 15 people, a certain type of area that's going to be low income, what are they going to do? And to give them each an extra 2, 3 years, how does that affect the nitrogen? Then, to me, I got to go back to Dan and say, all right, what do we want to do here?
Do you think you're gonna find that many people in a condensed area that all have a new system within 5 years? I think if the system's older than 5 years, they connect.
I think that's the whole neighborhood that's gonna be applying for the hardship, so you're gonna have 10 people coming in with
I think you will.
30-year-old systems,
Yeah.
with 10-year-old systems, with 2-year-old systems, so you might have a neighborhood that's made up of completely different age systems.
There was a
But
group,
you're
that-
congesting you're applying that hardship to a specific area, and
and
now
the
you're
reason I'm
approving
bringing this up
something
is because
for
under wastewater,
an entire street.
yeah, yeah.
And that is,
That came up
How do-
under
how do
wastewater,
you-
they came
yeah.
before us and said, that this was a community.
yeah. And you can't look and say, we approved your neighbor for the hardship and you're in the same situation, but we've done 10 people on that street, we can't do 11, and I think that's why the discussion needs to happen before you start seeing them, is
Yeah,
Is-
and
thinking about all of these things and how it's gonna
And I think-
impact the.
I think maybe, I don't know whether we can have a further discussion on this and include Dan.
I think Dan could be a good asset,
Pardon?
a good resource.
Oh, my gosh, yes. Oh, my gosh, yes.
Say,
But he would be able to say, okay, what do we do in a situation like that? And if you say, all of a sudden you're telling 10 people, you have to connect, and they don't have the money, where does that put us? If we're the ones that are going to say, you have to connect. I think that puts an awful lot on us.
And we're starting to get these
We're starting to
requests,
get
and
them.
you're gonna see more of them,
Mm-hmm.
because once the first one gets approved, the word's gonna get out there and everybody. So I think having some set of understanding of the impact
criteria.
of the approvals
Yes.
prior to issuing the first one.
So I think getting some information from the county and having maybe Dan give us some, like, okay, there are going to be certain areas where that's going to come up. And how are we going to handle that?
Yep.
How do you feel as far as the nitrogen removal? How do you, give us some guidance on how we're supposed to think, because we're going to be the ones that,
We're gonna be the bad guys.
we're going to be the bad guys.
Yeah, I think criteria, as far as the age of the system, that's gonna be the easy piece for those
Yes.
ones. The location where they are in relation to wetlands and groundwater and those kind of
Those
things.
that, there's,
You can easily set a standard and say, nope, this is the cutoff.
and we have a good
Hardship is
reason.
the bigger.
That has been an issue from as long as I've been going to any meetings.
And we
I
need
don't
to
think
have
we've-
some answer
Definitive.
and
We need some
response.
definitive
And-
answers,
The same,
yeah.
Yes, consistency,
Thank
yes.
And depending on how many of these we have, I had suggested before that maybe the town ought to, like our individual town versus any of the others, would have somebody in the town that a person could go to say, this is, this is what I'm up against. That we come and say, yes, you must connect. Then where does that person go? What options do they have? Who could they talk to?
Yeah, we definitely need,
We need a,
more of an outside department, or
yes, yes.
even outside of the town of Harwich to make that determination over what's a hardship.
That,
And-
I think
and
for
can
making
there
that
be an-
determination, but like, I thought we needed, my feeling was we needed somebody in the town that person could go to.
And apply for a hardship,
Oh,
give
and
them
then
all
that
the
they can-
information.
the money, I don't think they'd ever approve that.
No, what I'm saying, let's say there was somebody that's already here in the town, that would just have the information, when somebody has a hardship, you can send them here, they can talk to this person, that would say, triage it. All right, this is how you would tell them where to go. If not, it almost seems like it's gonna fall on us.
Yep.
We're gonna say, you have to connect, well, and they're gonna say, I can't.
Yep.
And now what?
Yeah, you need somebody else to be able to make the determination,
Yes.
this is a true hardship.
Yes,
And here's my documentation that says this person qualifies for a hardship, and you almost put that burden on someplace else, because it's, if somebody, it's almost like you're at a point now where if somebody claims it, you have to accept it.
yeah, well, yeah. And then then my concern is that,
Without even going into the finances, and they could be
Yeah.
lying to their chief, or.
yeah,
And I don't think that's the place of the Board of Health to
No.
be reviewing people's finances to
No,
make
no.
that determination.
no. And then once somebody does have the hardship, and we say, yes, I agree, you do, and you shouldn't have to connect, but then again, we're looking at, then that's where I think we need Dan, if it's gonna be an area where, all right, you give them one person, and there's gonna be a domino effect. Now, if this whole area doesn't connect, now what? I mean, I've,
Where is the area now?
East Harwich.
Harwich.
yeah, just, yeah. I don't think we ought to go any
What did Chatham do?
further than that.
What was their
This Harwich thing.
experience?
God,
I wonder.
I would need
Is it
advice.
possible to find out how
System's
some of
30
these, maybe
years
some of
old.
these
Yeah.
questions have already been answered?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, we can
Uh,
definitely look into
Another-
there.
In other words, if somebody's already done this, maybe they could tell us what the obstacles were or what the criteria they used.
Yeah.
And that'll be another tool for us to use.
I think Judy and Leslie in P-Town,
Yeah.
they got sewer already, so
Yeah, I wonder, so they must have,
I think parts of
all these hardships must have been
Barnstable.
probably.
And they, and
I would think
that's true.
Barnstable, if they're another one that's moving into, they would, I think, have
Yeah, they would.
hardship communities as
Yeah,
well.
I would say so, yeah. So maybe there's, in other words, maybe the information's out there, we just don't know where it is.
Mhm.
And it might be different then than it is now,
Does
as,
the Council on Aging have anything that they know of?
Not that I'm aware of, but that's another good resource. We can reach out to them. They might have some
I remember
separate
when,
fundings.
when the county came in and they talked about the county loans, and they said basically, almost anybody could get it.
Yeah,
All right.
'cause the Council on Aging would be a little
But
age
there was
bias
some
for,
people that were not gonna be eligible,
yeah.
because the comment was, I can get the loan, but I can't pay it back.
Well, you could index it to when the house sells. Or
Well, like I said, they,
Yeah, we
there
have to
could
have a
be,
plan.
could be some kind of an index to that. In other words, if you sell your house, or let's say a relative sold the house, there's a small lien on it because of that.
yeah, and that's what they used to do back in Pennsylvania.
That's what I think is a very smart idea.
But-
that we, you
But
know,
that, I don't know if that is by town or by state. And
How do you do it?
Well, I'm sure there's ways of doing it. You just set up with a
Well,
bank
And does the
loan.
town have funding to, that's the
Yeah,
other, I mean, if it is
see,
a
that
town
this-
program,
see,
do
the
we have the
difference
funding
was
to be
this-
able to?
This was like Berks County, all right, it was a big
Yeah,
county,
It could be
all
a
right.
county program, you could work around it. And that would be my thinking. you know.
And I don't know, does the state have anything? Does the state have anything to help people that are
Well, it's
in
another-
this position? Let's say they're in their 70s or 80s or 90s. I mean, you're just gonna, you
That's
can't,
better than 90s.
huh? Yeah, you know, you're just gonna tell them where you gotta move.
I'll do a lot more research on
Obviously,
this
we got a lot
topic.
more
The
questions
only reason,
now.
because this came up under wastewater repeatedly, that's why I'm asking the questions, because I still don't have the answers.
Well, this is maybe, yeah, it's time to look at all these things. Like
I
I say,
think-
some people already invented the wheel, we just have to find out where the information is.
For the building permits, I can draft a policy for you to review to see if you want to accept for people coming in front of the board for relief from connection, waiting until phase 3. I can draft a policy for you to review and approve for just building permits expansions. Connections.
If somebody's expanding the property, I mean, but we're not talking like hardship with those people, right? I mean, if they're expanding their
Yeah,
property.
yeah, no, this is
then, like,
different. This is a
We don't have
different-
an issue there. It's like,
Yeah.
And these are people who are proposing building projects who are in phase 3, that want to move the project forward but are pending. So you just approved one at the 2 Bay Pine Road. You allowed him to utilize his existing system.
Because it's okay, it's not
And-
failing or
Right,
anything.
and then wait to connect. He took the responsibility that if that non-conforming system was to create a health emergency, he would
Then
have
that
to upgrade
changes.
and connect. So
Yeah.
he assumed that responsibility through the variance process that you allowed. Going beyond phase 3, I think is, and it depends on the
I don't know how we can make
expansion
that
and what
decision.
their, it can't be beyond what their property can support either. That's the other piece, is they have to be able to show that a fully conforming system can fit on their parcel. Somebody with an acre and a half and, you know, a 2,000 square foot house can probably easily show that without engineering plans. Somebody on a half an acre with a 2,500 square foot house might have a little harder time showing that they can fit that,
Yeah.
that system. So those
I
are the
think those
criteria.
are the easy ones. Those will be the easy ones.
Those are the easy ones. The folks that have, and I can draft a policy as well for the people who are just looking for extensions based on age of the system, that you'll see on a case-by-case basis, and you'll approve those ones, but you'll have some kind of
Guidelines.
policy that you follow. The hardship, I think, is what we still need to
Yeah.
wait to make a determination on.
Yeah. That's gonna
whether-
be, like I said, I think that can't be just our decision.
And you can, those two policies, you can move to accept or alter or, you know, change how you see fit.
Yeah. Yeah, I will, if it's all right, I will get up on Monday and bring that in front of the board that, you know, we need some guidance on this.
Yeah, this is a lot to, it's a lot of weight to put
Yeah.
on staff
And
and
like I
then
said,
on the
we don't
board.
even have the wherewithal to make the determination. So basically, anybody could come before us and say it's a hardship. We wouldn't, how do we know?
Right.
So,
And somebody's hardship on their second home
yeah,
might be different than somebody's hardship on their primary residence,
Yeah.
but they're just trying to work and live here and,
yeah.
True.
I think that's a big criteria. Is it your first home or your second home?
Or third.
We're supposed to do that in July?
Yeah, we are.
Okay, all right, we'll mention that, yeah, all right. Okay. So any more discussion on this for now? Anybody?
Nope.
All right.
My head's spinning now.
Making a motion to adjourn.
No, not yet. Look, do you think there's anything else we need to discuss?
I think that's a lot to digest for that request. The sewer use, that hardship, I think we're gonna need to do some research to find out what's out there and available to people. We can draft guidances for the other two circumstances. I can reach out to other towns to see how they're handling it, and bring that information back to you at the next meeting, and we can continue the work session discussion.
Yeah, and probably tell that lady to wait a month.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, I don't think there's any rush. We wouldn't move forward in enforcement if we're asking her to wait. We can't, I don't think the board can comfortably give her a definitive answer. And we can I'll start creating some little ticks for, like, here's what you would do, policy you'd follow for building permits in phase 3.
and if you want, just, you can do, dot it, you know, like bullet points, so you don't have to.
Once hardship is defined, here's criteria that would need to be met. But again, defining what that hardship is.
And then again, that's gonna depend on the system, what shape the system's in. Yeah. All right. All right. So, how do we close a work session?
I think in this case, you just move to adjourn, I mean, you can vote to continue it on to the next Board of Health meeting,
All right.
the August meeting,
All right.
if you want to make a motion.
Somebody want to make a motion?
We'll make a motion to continue the discussion, as long as Carrie brings us some more information. And the more
Poor thing.
information, well, the more information we have, the better off we can. make
Absolutely, yeah, this
decisions,
is,
you know?
Feel bad, you know. doesn't have-
I second that motion.
Vote?
Aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. That's it.
that's it, you can,
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
That's right, we're voting. Aye.
Aye.